begin tonight with new reporting, including from the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, who joins us with her take shortly, that the former president is still struggling with how to campaign against Vice President Harris. A number of Republicans, members of Congress, pundits, advisors have publicly said they want him to focus on policy, not conspiracy theories and attacks on Harris, particularly involving her race, like we heard from him at the National Association of Black Journalists. Yet today, mixed in with those policy critiques the Republicans have been asking for, his campaign war room posted this. Two pictures side by side. The left one billed as, quote, your neighborhood under Trump, and one on the right, quote, your neighborhood under Kamala. A flag and whitewashed porches on the left, on the right, a sea of black and brown faces, all under text which reads, import the third world, become the third world. Now, this is nothing new in American politics. It has a long and sad history, and it's certainly not anything new for Donald Trump.
As we speak, there are hundreds of thousands of Biden migrants invading our city and our country. They're coming from so many places we don't have any idea. In many cases, we don't even know what the language. You know, you have languages that people don't even know about.
That was the former president in April, and if that wasn't explicit enough, here he is last December using a Nazi-era description of what foreigners, and back then Jews, were accused of doing.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world.
So none of what Trump is saying about Harris is really new, including his repeatedly mispronouncing her name.
Kamala. They were explaining to me, you can say Kamala, you can say Kamala. I said, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what I say. I couldn't care less if I mispronounce it or not. I couldn't care less. Kamala, sometimes referred to as Kamala. You just get about 9 different ways of pronouncing the name.
Well, the former president does what he does, and despite urging from Republicans, what he continued to do this evening.
Kamala, you know, Harris. Nobody knows her last name. It's Harris. Everyone thinks of her as Kamala, so it's Kamala Harris.
Joining us now is New York Times senior political correspondent Maggie Haberman. So if Trump is in fact rattled by Vice President Harris, is it clear to you what it is specifically that rattles him so?
Well, I think there's two things, Anderson. Number one, she's closed the polling gap with him in a pretty short amount of time, and he had gotten very used to running against Joe Biden. That was comfortable for him. He knew what the line of attack was, and his campaign had spent a lot of time and money on it. But she is a woman, and she is a black woman, and both of those factors have proven pretty challenging for him in the past. Yes, he is. His allies will say he is an equal opportunity offender and he goes after everybody. And it's certainly true that he insults a wide variety of people, but he has seemed to really struggle with women opponents, women critics, and particularly black women who are critics.
It is also just remarkable how kind of regurgitated many of the messages coming from Trump are, not just regurgitated by Trump from years past, going after Barack Obama, talking about his name, pointing out his middle name, raising questions about his origins, but regurgitated from dozens of American political races in our history. I mean, calling people Marxists and communists and demonizing people of color.
Trump is a man of few moves, and so we have seen him make the same ones over and over. You are correct that he is trying to run against Kamala Harris the same way that he attacked President Obama when Obama was in office and Trump was flirting with the idea of running for president in 2011 and was promoting the birther lie, that suggesting that the first black president was not legitimate to serve. You can see his campaign, if you look at the Trump War Room account on Twitter, they are trying pretty hard to bait her and to bait Democrats into a fight about race. That has been something so far that the Harris campaign has not taken the bait on. But this is something that we have seen him do before. It is something that has come up in other races. Again, we will see what this race looks like in the fall. But so far, the Harris campaign has been pretty focused on what it wants to talk about, and it's not what Donald Trump wants to talk about.
Is it clear to you, does he still receive, messages from, does he still talk to a whole strange cast of misfit toy characters throughout the day? CNN has been reporting that some Trump allies are concerned that he's more susceptible to fringe conspiracy theories when he's most vulnerable. Who has his ear right now?
Yeah, Jonathan Swan and I reported this weekend about the fact that he is so disoriented has left him pretty susceptible to being manipulated. He's actually we just reported that he has a meeting planned with Miriam Adelson, the widow of the casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, this week at Bedminster, and this comes after he attacked her abruptly out of nowhere over text through one of his aides a couple of weeks ago. He has a lot of people around him who either support conspiracy theories or don't like what they see as the establishment or are critical of certain kinds of Republicans. And when he is feeling cornered, he tends to listen to those people. He is clearly feeling cornered right now.
He's also, I mean, the fact that he's still talking about the crowd sizes, which was, from the earliest days of him in the White House, he was, we all remember the Sean Spicer, having to kind of sadly go up and back him up on these crowd size claims.
Yeah, it feels very familiar. Again, man of few moves. And again, these are moves that he makes when he is under strain or anxiety or uncertainty. And he tends to be at his most erratic. Look, the number of people who we have spoken to who just say that he seems very on edge is not small.
Maggie Haberman, thanks very much. Perspective now from Natasha Alford, senior correspondent for The Griot, also CNN political commentators Paul Begala and Scott Jennings. Natasha, we just heard the former president in his Univision interview tonight mocking the vice president's name yet again. He did it with President Obama, of course, as we talked about with Maggie. I mean, it seems like just the most juvenile and blatant effort to make a person of color seem somehow foreign or different or somehow untrustworthy, that, no one knows their real name was his thing he's saying tonight.
Well, it's an effort to denigrate her as a candidate and a person, right? She's not even worth sort of getting to know her name or having to say her name correctly. He says things like she's not that smart. And he does this very intentionally with women of color. He's done it against Maxine Waters, questioning her IQ. So all of it plays into stereotypes that we've seen before. And it's about us versus them. It's about the other that we are supposed to fear. And when you look at the meme that was sent out, you notice that the immigrants that were shown, they are immigrants of color, right? Despite the fact that immigrants come from around the world, he wants you to see that there are certain types of immigrants that you should fear. And what he does is takes very complicated issues, takes away all the nuance, and makes it very simple for people who are low information voters to believe that they are, somehow protected by him and not on that outside group. But I think what many of these voters will start to see is that he also doesn't have their interests at heart. And that is something that will be evident when many of the policies that he advocates, when you really look at them closely, you see that they don't include all of America.
Paul, this certainly brings up echoes of the Willie Horton ad that was used, decades ago. I mean, the former president, if this is happening now at this stage of the race, where does this end up a month from now?
Right. You got 83 days. He's started in the gutter. He's now in the sewer. I don't know what's below that. And this meme, it does. It makes Willie Horton look like a Benetton ad. There's nothing subtle there. I suppose the good news is he recognizes Kamala Harris as black, which was not the case a few days ago. But it's beyond, set aside that it's racist, which it is. It's really dumb. It's really dumb, and it's very desperate. If this is a guy who got 8% of the black vote in the last election, but was polling at 20% in the black vote before Joe Biden dropped out, 20%, that's terrific for a Republican. And, I don't know much about politics, but it seems to me that memes like this are going to drive away a lot of black voters. By the way, a lot of white voters, a lot of Hispanic voters, a lot of Asian American voters. It's a really dumb move, as well as desperate, as well as...
You don't think it works? You don't think this... No. You don't think, the side-by-side comparison speaks to some feral, deep part of some people's brains?
It does, but those people are already for Trump. I just don't see an undecided voter looking at this and saying, "Ooh, good point." Now Maggie just used, she's so good, a really important word, baiting. I will say to the Democrats, don't let Mr. Trump bait you into screaming, "Oh, racist, racist." Far better, I think, for Kamala Harris to say, "Let me tell you what your neighborhood will look like. Crime is down under Biden and Harris. It was up under Trump. So crime will be lower, but your income will be higher because we're going to raise the minimum wage. And the young person working at that grocery store at the McDonald's where I used to work is going to be doing better off. Your health care will be cheaper, and your rights will be protected, especially if, God forbid, you need to go and have an abortion. That's a much better answer because that's actually hitting people where they live rather than telling them what I think people who are already against Trump believe, which is that he panders to prejudice.